welcome to Noble Character Crafts. My name is Amy and I'm coming to you from eastern Nebraska where I live with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Friday, July 22nd, 2022. A huge welcome to any new or returning viewers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you really enjoy this episode. This is a channel all about my crafty life, and today I have crocheting and knitting to share with you all. You can find me online on Instagram at Noble Character Crafts, and you can also get in contact with me through my email at noblecharactercrafts@yahoo.com. I will have the links to the places that you can find me in the description box below, as well as show notes for this episode. I am hosting a year-long make-along on Instagram this year called the Make 9 2022 Mal, and that is for you to join in the Make 9 Challenge, where you can choose 9 projects that you would like to work on this year, post a grid of those projects to Instagram, and then anytime that you post a picture showing your progress or a finished object, then you will be entered to win a prize, which I draw periodically throughout the year. It's never too late to join in. It's just a participatory make-along, so you're not required to finish anything. Whips are allowed, and you can just enter whatever you would like. Also, any crafts are also allowed to be included in this make-along, so please don't hesitate to continue to join in that make-along. And thanks again to everybody who has been participating throughout the year. I really appreciate you joining in, and it's so much fun to see the different projects that you're working on. I am so excited that I have several finished objects to share with you all. I have more finished objects than works in progress to share this time, so that's exciting. I always love being able to finish up projects and then get to start new ones, of course. So the first one I am wearing, I was working on this during the last episode. It is called the Aquae. I'm not really sure still how to pronounce the name. Aquae or Aqua? I'm not sure. Tank. The designer is Hilary Smith Callis. And I used up a bunch of my DK weight scraps of cotton or cotton blend yarns to make this top. I did use one fingering weight yarn that I held double as well. So this knit is knit from the top down. You start with the back piece and then the 2 straps, and then you join in the round and start working the body. But it's worked from the top down. It was a really simple design. I did make several modifications to it. I decided the original has the back with a racer back shape to it, a slight one. It's not a really extreme racer back, but it does have a bit of a shaping like this in the back, and I decided to eliminate that shaping, so I just eliminated the decreased stitches and the increased stitches that made that shaping, and I just knit straight on the back. I also eliminated a purl stitch along the side seams to make like it's intended to have a faux seam, and I just eliminated that purl stitch on either side as well. And then it also includes waist shaping, and I eliminated that as well. I also did not even look to see how long she recommended the pattern being. I'm pretty sure that I shortened it from what she intended the design to be. I just knit it and tried it on until I liked the length of it. Also, I'll stand up and show you the ribbing, but the ribbing I did not probably follow her instructions for the length of the ribbing. I again just knit it until I liked how it looked. So the different yarns that I used, the main color I guess is this peach color, which is a Lion brand Coboo in the peach colorway, and that is 51% cotton, 49% rayon from Bamboo. Then I used this gray color, is from Knit Picks. It's in the CotLin brand, and it's in the ash colorway. It's actually the leftovers that I have from this doily in the background, which a lot of times people ask me about that doily in the background, and I'll have to put it down below because it's in my handy dandy knitting and crochet projects notebook that I keep, but I'd have to go searching for it in this notebook. I'm not sure exactly where it is, but I'll just put it right here so you can reference it if you're interested in that doily pattern. And anyway, then the next one is also a CotLin in linen, and that base is 70% Tangus cotton and 30% linen. Then this beautiful color here is called Mulberry, and that's another Lion brand, but it's in the Truboo base, which is 100% rayon from Bamboo. And then the one that I use that's fingering weight is the white. That one is Knit Picks Comfy Fingering, and I held it double. It is 75% Pima cotton and 25% acrylic, and the color is just called white. I just did, the original pattern calls for there to be 2 colors and for the stripes to be even, and I modified that as well. So I just randomly striped in the colors. I did not follow a pattern or a sequence for the width of each stripe, but I did follow a sequence for the order. So I continued with the order that you can see here. The colors are repeating in order, but I mixed up the widths of the stripes. So that was fun and made the project go by really, it was exciting to always change the colors and to change up the size of each stripe as well. So that went really well. I made the 3rd size in the pattern, and I used US 5 3.75 millimeter needles for the majority of the project. When I was knitting the back and strap pieces flat, I did go down to a US 4 3.5 millimeter needle for my purl stitches because I purl looser than I knit generally. So I think that is all of the details that I have to say about it. I thought that this was an I-cord in the pictures, the trimming along the neckline and the armholes, but it's actually, you just pick up stitches and then you do 1 row of ribbing and then you bind off. So that was easy and it worked out really well. When I stand up, you'll be able to see that the bottom ribbing for this, just in the way that the colors were sequencing and the length that I wanted it, it ended up that the mulberry color I used for the ribbing. And since I did that, I had originally intended to use the peach color for the ribbing and all of the trimming along the neckline and armholes. But it was going to turn out too long or too short if I ended up ending with the peach color to follow my sequence of colors. So since I ended that bottom ribbing in the mulberry color, I thought I would try to use the mulberry for this trimming as well. But it just didn't look nice since I had this big block of peach right here, and I actually have 1 row of peach that's knitted along here as well. And I don't know, I had just started off with the peach color and the mulberry, I did the neckline with the mulberry and it just didn't look nice, especially right along here because you could see this ash and then a tiny, tiny stripe of the peach and then the mulberry neckline, and it didn't look nice. So I ripped that out and then redid it in the peach color, but the bottom is ending with the mulberry color, but I think it's okay because it's just all striped and I think it looks fine. So I'll go ahead and stand up so that you can see it better. So here it is. I'm really happy with the length of it. Again, I just tried it on until it was the length that I liked it, and then I just did, I don't even know how many rows. I think I did 10 rounds of 2x2 ribbing. I'll turn around so you can see how the back is different. Okay, so there you can see the back is more of just a straight cut instead of the racer back design. And I just wanted to do that so that I wouldn't have problems wearing a bra and having the strap show. So that just worked out better for me. So I'm really, really pleased with how it turned out in the end. I highly recommend this pattern. It's just such a simple, it'd be great just to have this in a few other colors. It's a really nice, simple tank design. I really like it. As you can see, I'm wearing a shirt underneath it just because it's a little bit too low cut for my comfort level, but I'm sure a lot of people could get away with wearing it without a tank or a camisole or anything underneath it, and it would be fine. I like how the armholes are nice and high. I don't like the armholes to be too low on a tank top or anything like that. So anyway, I'm really pleased with it, and I may make this pattern again. I can definitely see me making it again in a different color, maybe a solid color or something like that would be great as well. But again, just so excited to have another summer garment available, that's hand knit in my wardrobe. And it was, of course, really great to be able to use up a bunch of scraps. I still actually have quite a bit of each of these colors though. I guess the mulberry, I don't have a ton of that left over, so that's good. Oh, and I don't have a lot of the ash color left either. But I still have almost an entire cake, brand new cake of the peach color. I only had to break into that to do this neckline and armhole ribbing, which was another reason why I kind of thought, oh, I don't even have to break into that one. I'll just use the mulberry color, but I'm much happier with this peach around the edges. Anyway, I think that's all for this project. I'm so happy with it. I really am happy with that. Okay, my next finished object is a pair of socks. You saw me working on these in the last episode as well. These are the Chicken Scratch Socks by Backwoods Knits. And this is my second finished object from one of my Make 9 boards. Very poorly participating in my own make along this year. I made 2 boards this year. One of them has all garments on it, and then the other one is all accessories. So this is the first project that I have finished from my accessories board, but that's okay. I'm just getting super distracted this year by other projects, which you will see in the other projects I've been working on since I recorded last. I'm just doing lots of different patterns that I wasn't expecting to work on this year, but that's perfectly fine, of course. Anyway, I absolutely love how these socks turned out. I love the combination of this yarn and the pattern. I think they're so beautiful. I'm so happy with them. So for these, I knit the small size, which is a 60 stitch count size. And I followed the pattern, except for I messed up the very first round with that chicken scratch stitch. I don't know if you can tell, but the first round my stitches are slanting a little bit and they should be going straight up and down, but that's okay. Otherwise, I followed the pattern. I think I followed the pattern exactly for the leg and even the length of the leg. I don't think I made any adjustments to anything else, except I did add in my slip stitch detail on the sole, the ball of my foot there. If you've watched before, you know that I always add in a few inches of a slip stitch detail to the ball of my socks so that I can prevent holes from wearing in that spot. So I just follow basically the same pattern that you would do on a slip stitch heel flap, but just put it on the sole. So for one round, just on the bottom of the sock, I do slip one, knit one, slip one, knit one, and then the next round I do all knit stitches on the bottom, and then just repeat those 2 rounds. Somebody asked me in my last video how I know when to start doing that, and generally I just try on my socks. I think it's about 50 rounds that I do from the heel to the start of my slip stitches, but I always try them on anyway because some yarns are different than others. Maybe my gauge changes a little, you know. I don't like to just count on a row gauge. I just always try them on, and when it gets to the point where it's before the ball of my foot, then I start doing that slip stitch detail. And same with my toe. I always just try my socks on to know when to start the toes as well. The yarn is so wonderful. I just absolutely loved working with this yarn. Both the feel of it, the base is just beautiful, and then also the colorway is just so gorgeous, and I loved working with it so much. It was a gift to me from Tiffany of the Woolen Homestead. This was dyed by her and her husband Ethan when they were hand dyeing yarn, and it is in the colorway called Hogsmeade Holiday. It's on a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon base, but it's just such a really, really nice base. I loved it. I loved working with it so much. Fingering weight. I knit these on US 0 2mm needles. For the slip stitch heel flap, I used my own hand dyed yarn on my Comfort colorway. That's also a 75-25, and then for the toe, that's also my own hand dyed yarn in the Life Giving colorway. I also used to dye yarn and sell it, but I don't anymore. But I have several little scraps of my own hand dyed yarn left over that I use often. Anyway, I was planning on using the Comfort for both the heel and the toe, but I just thought it would be fun to put in the green color for the toe as well and just bring out those beautiful specks that are in the yarn. So gorgeous. I love it. So super happy to have finished this pair of socks. And I finished another pair as well. So I think on both of these pairs of socks, I was on the gusset decreases on my last video. and I was able to finish up this pair of socks as well. This is the pattern called the Abyss Socks by Gazal Mohammed, and this pattern was gifted to me by Gazal. Thanks again, Gazal. And also the yarn was a gift to me from the Rose Opal Knits podcast for their Scrappy Sock Mal that they hosted earlier this year. So I was one of the winners for that Mal. And this beautiful yarn is from Angela of Willow Tree Yarn. It is in a sock set that is called Island Retreat. So it came with a 50-gram skein of this lighter color that's got these beautiful fun specks of color in it. And then it came along with this 20-gram mini as well. So I love how these turned out. Now you can kind of see that the pattern is mirrored. So I'm holding that, right? So this is the left sock and then this is the right sock. So you can see that the patterning kind of is over to one side. Anyway, I really love how they worked up. So for these, I did make a few modifications on this pattern. I knit again, the 60 stitch count size, and I did the ribbing for 15 rounds. I think that's what the pattern called for, but I'm not 100% sure. But then the pattern calls for you to do an afterthought heel, and I just decided to do a slip stitch heel flap because that is what fits me the best. I'm not a huge fan of afterthought heels. Again, I added in my slip stitch detail on the ball of the foot. And again, I used US 0 2mm needles for these as well. Also for the toe, I started the toe color 6 rounds earlier before I started decreasing for the toe. I did put in 6 rounds of the contrast color just because my yarn was pretty well tangled up and I was getting frustrated with it. And so I needed to just cut it. And so I thought I'm just going to do this a little earlier than what I would normally do. I'm going to knit a few rounds plain stockinette before I start the decreases, but it's not really that noticeable anyway. So I was knitting from one cake of yarn pulling from both the inside and the outside. And so that's why I got really tangled up. A lot of times when I knit, I always knit my socks 2 at a time, almost always. And I generally, in the past, have wound up 2 different cakes of yarn so that I don't have that problem. But since it was only a 50-gram skein, I'm sure I would have been fine. But it's nicer to keep it all in one skein so that your leftovers aren't in 2 littler balls. I would rather just have one bigger ball of leftover yarn. So that's why I decided to just pull from the inside and the outside of the cake. But it does get tangled more easily that way. Anyway, super happy with these. Let's see, is there anything else on these that I need to talk about? I don't think so. Yep, I think that's it. Super happy with these as well. They're so cute. And again, I'm just loving the shorty socks that I've made recently. I'm getting a lot of use out of them this summer. So I have another pair on the go, which I will show you in my works in progress. I still have several finished objects to share with you, and they're all crochet projects. So on to those. So I've just really been into crochet lately. I've just gotten the itch to make a bunch of crocheted patterns that were not on my radar. They were just totally random, and I just found them. And sometimes I just get like that. I just get an idea in my head, like I want to use up this yarn, or I really want to try this pattern out, and that has been the case in the last few weeks. So the first one I have to show you is this adorable little baby bunny. It's called Bunny Baby Lovey, and it is a pattern by Burgundy and Blush. Isn't it adorable? So I had this cake of yarn that was gifted to me by a friend who, it was just so sweet because she doesn't knit or crochet, but she just knows that I do, and so she gifted me this cake of yarn at Christmas time, and it was just so sweet that she thought to do that and picked some yarn out that she thought I would like. So it is by Lion Brand in a Mandala Sparkle. It was 100 grams and it was self-striping, so there's kind of an idea of the color striping that it goes through. It's DK weight, 100% acrylic, and the colorway is called Nova. I'm sorry, it's 98% acrylic and 2% metallic polyester because of the sparkle that's running through it. Anyway, this pattern is, it calls for DK weight yarn, so I didn't have to make a modification with that. I used the recommended hook sizes, which were 3.5 millimeter and 4.5 millimeter. And I don't think I made any modifications to the pattern at all. I did have to do a little bit of yarn management to get the colors to work right. I wanted, I didn't want the bunny to be striped, the actual head here and the arms. So I wanted those to be as matching as possible, but I didn't have enough of this lighter peachy pink color for the ears, so I had to use a little darker pink color for the ears, but I just think I think it turned out really well. And then you can see how the yarn striped throughout the little blanket part. And that's just a simple granny stitch variation of a blanket, but it's just a square. And then the bunny is just sewn together and put onto the little blanket, basically. You make everything, all the little pieces are made separately and then sewn together for this. And I like how the face is just really simple and looks like the bunny is sleeping. So I followed the instructions for that as well. She gives clear instructions on how to make all of those details. I just think it's super sweet. I don't have a recipient for this project. It was, like I said, just a random thing where I was like, I want to use up this. Oh, this is such a cute pattern. I want to make this. So I did. But I will save it and gift it to somebody as a baby gift sometime down the road, and hopefully it will be well received. I think it's so adorable. And then I got on this amigurumi kick because obviously this little bunny is like amigurumi, and I had some more yarn in my stash that I wanted to use up. I found this pattern and I think it's so adorable. I love it so much. This remarkably is a free pattern. I couldn't believe that. I just think it's so, so cute. Oh, it's so sweet. This is called Holly the Unicorn Crochet Pattern by Sweet Oddity Art. Now, my husband's grandmother came over earlier this week and she said, "Is that a pig or what is that supposed to be?" I said, "It's a unicorn." But she said, "Well, the nose is way too short for a unicorn. It should be long snout." I was like, well, yeah, I guess, but it's just, a toy. It's not like anatomically correct. Is that the right word? Anyway, I think it is so sweet. So this was, a little bit fiddly to make, but I was just loving it so much. I just really, really enjoyed making this pattern. Now, on this one, I believe that this pattern, I don't have it handy. No, I can't quite remember, but I'm pretty sure that this pattern calls for worsted weight yarn, and I used DK weight yarn. So the main color that I used, this was the yarn that I had that I wanted to use up. I think I got this from my friend Tina. Am I right, Tina? I think so. She gave this to me when she was destashing a bunch of yarn. This is Loops and Threads Snuggly Wuggly in the Baby Pastel colorway, and it is 100% acrylic. So I still have quite a bit of that yarn left over, and I think I'm going to make another toy with the leftovers of that. And then I also used some of the leftovers from that mandala from Lion Brand, the leftovers I had from the bunny Lovey. So I used that for the hooves and feet. I had enough of that darker gray that was matching, so those 4 pieces could be matching. And then I also used it for the horn and all of the hair. Look at all of this hair. Oh, it was not a true joy to make the hair, it was quite fiddly to make the hair. But when it was all done, I was like, oh my goodness, it was so worth it because these little curls are so much fun to play with. I just love them so much. I think they're so sweet. So you just do like a slip stitch, you make a chain and then slip stitch into the chain, and it just naturally curls and makes these cute little coils of hair. And as you can see, I just had tiny little bits of this yarn left over, so the colors are a mixture of all the different colors that were in that yarn, but I think it is fun. It's like she has little pink highlights in her hair, and I think it's so sweet. So this again was knit in lots of different pieces and then sewn together. So the feet, legs, and body are all one piece, but then the arms are knit separately. The head is knit separately, or crocheted, I'm sorry. The head is done separately. The nose is separate. The horns, the horn, the ears, everything's done separately, and then you sew it all together. The hair as well, of course. I used safety eyes and then did a little bit of embroidery, just copying the pattern. She doesn't give instructions for the eyelashes, but I just copied the pictures that she had on the pattern to make the cute little eyelash detail, which I think is really sweet. And she also, in the pictures, has a little ribbon around the neck, so I did that as well. And I just think it finishes it off so beautifully. Now, I will, again, with this one, I'm really tempted just to keep this because it's so sweet, but I may gift this down the road as well. I'm probably going to just hang on to this until I have a little girl to gift this to as well, but time will tell. I just am so happy with how it turned out. I just think it is so adorable. I love it so much. Ta-da! I used a C hook, 2.75 millimeter for this project. I just can't get over how sweet she is. And I'm so incredibly awed that this pattern was free. It was wonderful to follow. Very clear. I didn't have any problems. It was really well written. Next I had, again, I was just kind of like going through my stash and trying to use up a bunch of stash for some reason. I don't know why I got this urge to use up some skeins of yarn that I had in my stash, but this is a yarn that I picked up at the thrift store. It's also Lion brand, lots of Lion brand this episode. This is called Nature's Choice Organic Cotton, and it is a worsted weight in the almond colorway. I actually have another skein of this as well. But anyway, I used this to make this sweet little baby bib. Isn't that cute? I think it's so adorable. Very simple to make. It was super fast to make as well. I made it in one day. It only took me a couple of hours probably. It is called the Handicrafter Cotton Bibs and Booties pattern by Bernat. So it does have a Booties pattern in with it, but I didn't make the booties. I just made the bib. It is crocheted from the bottom here and then worked up, and then you crochet the two straps. Well, you just crochet one strap and then you go to the other side and, you know, work on that side to make the second strap, I guess I should say. I modified the edging. It calls for a different kind of edging, which is a picot edging, but I started doing that, and I really don't enjoy picot stitches a lot, either in knitting or crochet. They're okay, but they're not my favorite, and they can look a little wonky. I mean, you can block them so that they pin out nicely. I have another project that I will show you that, you know, I did that with, but for a baby bib, I just wanted it to be something simple that would look nice after it just gets washed and dried, and I didn't want it to be fussy. Anyway, I started to do the picot edging, and I just didn't like how it was working up. So I substituted it. I used this knitting dictionary that I also got from my friend Tina. And in here there are some crochet stitches as well. There's several different crochet stitches in this book, but there's also some edging and borders stitches, And I use the scallop edge, which is on page 151. So that's what I substituted for the edging on this bib, and I think it worked out really well. And then I was also able to use one of those openings for the buttonhole, so I didn't have to make a different buttonhole. I think the original pattern calls for you just to make a chain and loop it over for the buttonhole, but I liked being able just to use the border for the buttonhole, so that worked out really well. And I just had that big plastic cream colored button in my stash, so that went well with the yarn, I thought. So I think that's so sweet. I like I said, I have another skein of the same yarn, so I may just make another one like it. I haven't decided yet, but I think it will be a fun gift to give to a new mom at some point. I think it would be really useful to have a nice, soft, organic cotton bib. So it's really sweet. Very easy. Highly recommend this pattern. For any, if you just had a scrap of worsted weight cotton, it didn't take very much. Well, this was, I'm not sure if it was a full skein. I think it was, but it is an 85 gram or 3 ounce skein, and I still have, a good amount left. Not enough to make another one, but I would guess it took a little, maybe 50 grams or a little more than that. Okay, my last finished object, I'm pretty sure, is a doily. I just am doing things that are a little out of ordinary for me. I don't make a lot of doilies, but I just came across this pattern on Lovecrafts. It's by Julia Hart. It's called LEYLIGHT. And Julia Hart has a few other patterns that are just stunning. And I just came across her designs and was looking through them, and I saw this doily pattern, and I just really, really wanted to make it because I think it's so gorgeous. Now, I don't have a ton of crochet thread. All that I have in my stash is cream and black. And I wanted to make another doily to add to this wall. And so I wanted to use the black that I had. So it's gonna go, I don't know where, but somewhere up there. It's much smaller than that one. This only, I think, is about 8 inches in diameter. And it has tons of beautiful details, but I'm not sure if you'll be able to see all of them. You can kind of see them when I hold it like that. But it just has some beautiful raised texture to the stitches that is so gorgeous, I think. So pretty. I love it so much. So this isn't actually complete. Our county fair is coming up next week, and I wanted to submit this to the county fair as just a doily entry, but then I'm also planning to buy a metal hoop, which is how I have this one displayed on the wall behind me here. I bought a metal hoop and then crocheted the doily onto the metal hoop, and that's what I'm planning to do with this one as well. But I'm just going to submit it to the fair as a regular doily first before I add it to the hoop. So this was made using crochet thread size 10. I used Aunt Lydia's classic crochet thread. It's 100% mercerized cotton in the black color. And I used a number 2 hook, which is 1.5 millimeter. And it's crocheted from the center out, and I just love it so much. I also blocked it with spray starch so it's really stiff. So I just wet blocked it and then pinned it out, and then I have a can of spray starch, and I just soaked it with the spray starch and allowed it to dry, and that way it can hold its shape really well. But as you can see, this has the picot at the edge of each one, and then if you block it out, it is beautiful. So it used a lot of front post double crochet stitches and some back post double crochet stitches too to get this texture to the design. I thought it would be really fun to try to use this same pattern and make it with like bulky yarn. I wonder how big it would be. But I think it would be really cool if you could have like a blanket or a shawl or something with this design. It's probably going to be it would probably turn out still too small to be really useful, but I would like to do something like that someday to make, I don't know, I just love this pattern so much. It's so beautiful. So anyway, I'm super happy with that. I'm so excited. It was really a joy to make that. I mean, it was really detailed and intricate, working with black yarn and tiny little stitches, but I really enjoyed making it. So those are all of my finished objects, quite a few this time. Now, along the same lines with the same designer, Julia Hart, as I said, I was looking through her designs and I came across another design that I thought was super cool. It's called Cobwebs, and it is another doily type of design. Here's a picture of it. So it has these little spiders added into, I think it looks like a table runner, but the actual length of this is only 21 inches long. But that's, I'm modifying this to make it larger so that I can use it as a table runner as decoration around Halloween time. So I think it's really fun and cute, and so this is my first work in progress. And as I said, I'm modifying the pattern. So I got some graph paper and just started kind of playing around with the different shapes of how I could make this to be a larger table runner. We have a pretty big dining room table to seat all of us, and I want it to be put on the table runner and fill up a little bit more space. So my plan is here's a few different sketches of what I was trying anyway, and I think I've landed on this shape. So the original pattern is only this wide, and then it has 4 spiders going down it, so it would only be about this long. So I'm going to more than double it is my plan, and make it much wider as well. But I'm using the pattern for the, the regular squares for the majority of it, and then instead of having my spiders all in one line, I thought it would be fun to just randomly disperse the spiders around, and so that's my plan, so that it will look more natural. I thought it would be fun. Well, I kind of asked my kids what did they think? Did they think it was going to look nicer to have, because I had planned out a graph where the spiders were really symmetrical and, evenly spaced out. And then I just did I erased them and kind of played with them to make them all sporadic. And I asked the kids what they thought looked better, and they agreed that the sporadic placement of the spiders looked better. So that's what I'm going to do. So right now, I really haven't deviated from the pattern much at all. The only change I've made is that I did not add on the edge, every point that is on the outside of the doily or the table runner has a little extra picot stitch on it. And then if it's not an outside peak, if it's not going to be an edge, then it doesn't have that extra little picot. So that's the only change I've made, because I'm going to be adding more squares onto these, and so I didn't add a little picot to these 2 edges of these 2 squares. I don't know if that makes sense, but anyway. So this is how far I've come, and this will be the one edge, and then I'm just going to be going along and adding in the squares as I showed you on the graph. So the 2 colorways that I'm using are, the main color is Red Heart Classic Crochet Thread, again size 10, and again 100% mercerized cotton, and this is in the natural color. And then again, I'm using that same black that I used for the other doily. The hook that I'm using is a 6 1.8 millimeter hook. And this pattern again is really well written. I'm getting the hang of it now where I don't have to look at the pattern too much anymore for the main spider web type squares. I've only done one of the spiders obviously, so I'll have to look carefully at the pattern for that, but it's a pretty simple pattern now that I've done it 5 times. Anyway, they're joined, the squares are joined together as you go along, just at the little edges here, the corners, I mean. So that's working out really well. And I am really enjoying it. My boys are super excited about the spiders. They think they're really cool. So I think it'll be fun. I'm excited about this. I was kind of hoping to have this done for the fair too, but I think I'll have to take my entries in a week from today, and I probably won't have this done in time, but we'll see if I make them quicker. The more squares I make, the quicker I go, but I'm not pushing it, I'll just make it as fast as I can and then, enjoy the process still, which I am. It's so much fun. I just am really enjoying it. So cool, right? All right, and then my last work in progress is a pair of socks. I'm just holding it in this cute little tea bag. I got this from Garden Organica with a tea order. And I am making another pair of shorty socks. So I'm not following a pattern for these. I'm just doing plain stockinette for these. And I'm using up some of my stash of my own hand-dyed yarn that I had in my stash. So I just had 2 tiny little cakes of this colorway in my stash. This is the same colorway dyed on 2 different bases. So the first one is on a sparkle base, so it's 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and then 5% gold stellina. And then this is just on a 75-25 base. They're both, the colorway is called Light of Dawn. So I dyed this with the sunrise colors as my inspiration. And my shorty socks take about 50 grams total. So that's about what I have. And so I'm just going to be playing around to try to use up these 2 cakes. So I started off with 60 stitches. I did a 2x1 ribbing for 15 rounds and then went immediately into a slip stitch heel flap. I used the sparkle base for everything I've done so far for the cuffs and the heel flaps and the heel turn. And then I've just now switched to the 75-25 base, and I've only done 2 rounds with the gusset decreases. So my plan is to use up most of this, or as much as I can of this, for the remainder of the sock. I'm hoping that I can do the whole body of the sock and then finish the toes with the sparkle base as well, but we'll just see how it works out. I'm using US 0 2mm needles again, and my needles are always Coboo red lace. And I'm just going to do plain stockinette for the body of the sock. So I think that's it for those. Really simple, nice to have a mindless project on the go as well. So that's really all of the, I do have my cross stitch project that I showed off 2 episodes ago probably, and I just haven't worked on it at all. So I don't know, I just haven't had the desire to pick it up again. Cross stitch is something that I don't do very regularly, and there for a while when I first started that project I was super into it and I was working on it a lot, but I haven't lately. So other than that though, I just don't have any other, besides my scrappy blankets, I don't have any other projects on the go. So I may start a few more projects soon, but I'm not sure what to work on next. So I should probably focus on my Make 9 boards, right? And I don't know. We'll see what I want to do. But other than that, I think that is all that I have to share with you all today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please feel free to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you would like. I would really appreciate it. Just as a quick update, I think a few people were curious about, I put in a clip of our chickens, so they're doing well, and I put in a clip of our dog. She's doing well. We had a bit of a scare with her last week. She got her head caught in a empty plastic bottle and she nearly suffocated. So that was super scary, but she is very well now. She's completely back to normal. She had a very quick recovery, remarkably. And anyway, she's doing great. And the baby kittens are still in hiding. So the mother cat has the baby kittens in this enormous stick pile that we have in our yard. And she has just put them in a very a place that's really difficult to get to, and I don't want to bother her, but they're 3.5 weeks old now, and I'm so anxious to see them. I know we haven't seen them at all. I mean, I know she's going in. We watched the mom cat go in there, and you can tell she's nursing, and she comes out a lot. So we see the mom cat a lot, but we still have no sign of baby. So we don't know how many there are, what they look like, what colors they are, boys or girls. We just don't know anything. And it's so hard to be patient and wait for them to come out. But I'm really hopeful that within the next week we'll be able to see them. I really would love to just go traipsing through that stick pile, but I don't really know if I even can, because it's a big pile. And she's got them way in the middle. Like, she's got like this, there's this area where the sticks are, I mean, it's just made into like a perfect den like area for her. So I think it's a really good choice that she made putting her babies in there, because it's hard for us to get to them, and I think they're really safe in there, so that's good, but it's hard to wait for them. So anyway, everything is going pretty well around here. We've got a bit of sickness going around. Again, we've had a lot of bouts of sickness this summer, and 2 of our kids are sick today. So anyway, I hope you all are doing really well and enjoying your crafts, and I hope to see you real soon. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.